the one piece of advice that sticks with me the most as an entrepreneur is just don't forget to pay yourself first.
Today, I'm talking with Melissa Urban, co-founder and CEO of Whole30, who started one of the most recognized wellness brands in the world from a two-person self-experiment and a blog post in 2009, who told me at the end of our conversation that after 17 years and 8 New York Times bestsellers, the best advice she has for every entrepreneur is still just 3 words: pay yourself first. Well, thank you again so much for being here. I'm super excited to learn more about you and your business. I know that you started basically your Whole30 as a personal experiment and then put a blog post about it, but I'd love to hear a little bit in your own words how you went from that blog post to building a household name brand and having some major partnerships, 8 New York Times bestsellers. What did that journey actually look like for you?
Thank you so much, Shannon. So yes, Whole30 started as a two-person self-experiment in April 2009. So we actually just hit our 17-year anniversary. I had such a dramatic, life-changing experience from this elimination and reintroduction protocol that we put together based on science and other people's clinical findings. My response to this program was so tremendous. It impacted my energy, my sleep in a positive way, my mood. It really changed profoundly my emotional relationship with food and with my body. It changed the way I navigated stress and discomfort and negative emotion. I had such a wonderful experience with it that I thought, well, I'll share about this on my little CrossFit training blog and see if anyone else wants to try it. And in July 2009, about 100 people said, yeah, I would try it. And when 2 people get amazing results from a self-experiment, you think, oh, that's interesting. When 100 people come back and report equally stunning, remarkably similar life-changing results, that was the moment where I thought, okay, this might be something. From there, we traveled quite a bit and performed Whole30 seminars, largely at CrossFit gyms. I was very well entrenched within the CrossFit community at the time, and they were very well connected. So that was a big part of how Whole30 grew in the earliest days. And that led to a book and then 9 more books, I think, and Whole30 approved partners and really building the brand from there. But it all started with a blog and giving basically everything away for free for a really long time.
Yeah, so interesting. So as you've grown and evolved the program, and I don't think you just said like there's a pretty new version that just came out within the last couple of years. What's working really well in how you run the business on a day-to-day? And then on the flip side, taking something that's a household name and kind of bringing it up to speed can be risky. What does that decision look like operationally, and what are the biggest things that you're navigating right now?
Yes, the program and the brand and myself as an entrepreneur obviously have grown tremendously in the last 17 years. And I learned by making mistakes, sometimes very expensive mistakes. In the earliest
Mhm.
days, we were traveling to perform Whole30 seminars all over the country. We were so incredibly well booked, but we had no passive revenue. So if we weren't working, we weren't making any money. And so that was the first revelation, which is, okay, you need a way to bring in income, even if you are not the one generating it personally, right? I was my own rate limiting factor for a long time. Then
Yeah.
we expanded into licensing, which is still a very big part of our revenue stream. We started doing ads and sponsorships. Of course, I started writing books, and so we were selling books, and that became a revenue stream. But over the years, you start to realize that if a lot of your revenue depends on other people's marketing budgets, it leaves you in a very tenuous place. And never is that more apparent than in an economic downturn. Things get difficult, prices go up, inflation goes up, there's a lot of economic uncertainty. And of course, the first place brands tend to pull back on their spending is marketing and PR, which certainly affected us and the brands that we worked with and the way we were making money. So books are, of course, a product, but that's not something that I personally sell. Those are sold through bookstores all over the country. So many years back, we started working on our own individual products. How could we shorten that connection between us and the community? And how could we offer the community straight through us products or services that aided in their Whole30 experience, that helped make them more successful, that helped them feel more supported? So rolling out things like a meal delivery service made by Whole30, rolling out products that are in Costco regions all over the country that both fit our dietary guidelines, but are also wonderful options just for people who want to eat more whole foods or want to eat gluten-free or dairy-free. We have a video course for how to do the Whole30 now and an SMS program, options kind of at every
Mm.
price level. Those are the things that we've pivoted to over the last 5 or 6 years as a way of sort of owning that customer relationship, but also ensuring that if any one line of revenue happens to go down, that we have other lines that we directly or more directly control.
Yeah. So not all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining there's a pretty big support system behind your team as well. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I have a wonderful team that has expanded and contracted quite a bit over the years based on, I guess, the kind of business that I want to run and the kind of business that I feel the most comfortable in and the most flexible and nimble in. We've always had a small team. We've always tried to stay as nimble as possible, and that has served us incredibly well. So if the community talks about a resource that they don't have, or I hear pain points in some of these conversations, I love doing the Whole30, but it makes it hard to socialize. We're able to then very quickly spin up everything from a free resource to an entire book as
Mm.
fast as we can to help serve that community need. And that's definitely served us very well. Every good idea I've ever had has come from the community, and they really love it when it's clear that we're listening to them and that we're giving them tools to help them be more successful. I have a great in-house team that has been, most of them have been with me for many years, if not a decade or more. We have independent contractors that we work with, and we vary the creators and the graphic designers because DEI is a really big focus for us. And we want to make sure that we're representing everyone in our community well with recipes and food and who they see on the website and on social media. So that's always kind of in flux based on our needs, our projects, and our goals. And also, of course, what's happening in the economy, trends in social media, all of that is changing so rapidly all the time. And you have to be flexible and nimble to be able to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about listening and then being able to respond, right? Listening to what your customers, the people you're trying to serve, need, and then helping them in all those ways. I also think there's a moment for every business owner where you realize that you need a real financial infrastructure. And so I'm wondering, I mean, we're behind the numbers. So we talked about the economics and all of that, how that affects it. But when did that moment hit for you when you were going through all of the changes over the last 17 years? And
It,
maybe what's that looked like for you?
it hit too late. And again, I think that we learn by making mistakes, as I said, and you can only hope that the mistakes aren't so expensive that you can't recover from them. But in my earlier days, I was writing 1 to 2 books a year about Whole30. Very often after the seminal The Whole30 came out in 2015, which was my second book, I spent the next, I think, 3 years writing 2 books at a time. One was a cookbook where I had a team of recipe developers helping, and it was a lighter lift for me. And one was a prose book. It was Food Freedom Forever or the Whole30 Day by Day Guided Journal. And so I was putting out books, and that was a good revenue stream for us and going on tour and media. And then the pandemic hit. So
Mm.
my last book came out, Whole30 Friends and Family, in January 2026. I was touring, I mean, 2020. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And that was the moment where I thought, and my whole team kind of realized, I'm not writing books, then that's an enormous revenue stream that we have to make up for elsewhere. And it wasn't that we hadn't considered it. It wasn't that we weren't building up revenue streams in other areas, but it was a real kick in the crotch to actually see that on the numbers and think, oh my gosh, if I'm not pumping out books like a broodmare, we might be in serious trouble with the amount that we are growing. So that was a real aha moment. That was where we really started focusing on our own products and diversifying those revenue streams. And again, I'm very lucky that we were able to catch that before it was too little too late. But sometimes when things are going well, you don't pay as close attention as you should because things are going well. Why would you need
Thanks.
to pay close attention to things like budget and revenue lines? Yeah, I see them. Everything's going great. Like, let's move on. And I never made that mistake again.
Yeah. Yeah. 2020 was a wake up call for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. But a lot of people in business kind of had the same thing. Like all of a sudden, a lot of our clients who have brick and mortar CrossFit gyms, like you were talking about, are all of a sudden closed and not allowed to. And so, what does that look like? And being able to pivot, right? And understanding like you do have options, kind of pulling back and taking a little bit of time to say, okay, what does this actually look like? Right. And that's what I'm hearing
Yes,
that you
very
did.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any big financial challenges right now? I know we talked before a little bit about the unprecedented times that we're in. So, how are you navigating that in your business today?
Yes, for sure. Right now, I think we are seeing a kind of price sensitivity on the consumer side and on the brand side in different ways and legitimate ways, right? So, advertising and sponsorships, obviously a revenue stream, are less stable when brands are cutting back on marketing and PR budgets. But then consumers are also incredibly price sensitive for good reason. The Whole30 is to a degree a luxury product, right? The program itself is free. You don't have to buy anything to complete the program. It's always been free. It will always be free on our website. That will never change. But to do the program requires you to buy foods that are more expensive and less accessible for many people. So if you have people who are struggling just to pay their bills and buy groceries, then it might be a real challenge for them to take on an elimination and reintroduction program that forces them to buy more whole, nutrient dense foods. So, of course, that's challenging in and of itself. And though we do have products that help people be more successful, are people going to want to spend $300 on a course to be successful with this program when they could do it for free or they could buy a $30 book? So that's certainly a concern for us. And it's definitely something that we're thinking about as we create resources. We're actually beefing up our free resources right now, even though
Mhm.
we have a plethora, because we want people to be as successful as possible. And we understand that a course may not be in everyone's budget. At the same time, what is so interesting is that we've seen, especially since the pandemic, the more chaotic and sort of out of control things feel in terms of politics and war and just social events and those things that feel largely out of our control, many people want to come back to the Whole30 to think, okay, well, I can't control all of that, but I know that I can feel as good as I can feel and manage stress better and improve my mood and improve my sleep and improve my energy by doing this program. So oddly, one of our biggest group Whole30s ever was in April 2020, smack in the middle of the pandemic. And you would think people would be so stressed out. The last thing they're thinking about is their diet. And it was exactly the opposite. We had a huge influx of people. And that's what we're seeing now coming to us saying, I know this program is going to help me feel my best and navigate all of the stress that's happening. So I want to return to it. So we're really kind of thinking about and playing to both of those different subsets of people at the same time, which can be challenging. But the fact that you know that there is that dichotomy and you figure out how to speak to both populations, I think can be a very successful strategy.
I love that you named that and that you're seeing that dichotomy because I talk about this with our clients all the time. Like, there are people who will be willing, and you're even saying excited to continue paying you for the things you're doing. And when you continue to offer that, it gives you the resources to create free resources for people who can't afford that, right? But you
Yes.
have to be doing both because if you're out here just giving away free resources all the time, then we can go back to the financial side that doesn't work for you as a business and a business owner and all of that. And so I love being able to hold both of those things at the same time because that's really what we see as important for business owners, no
It
matter where
definitely
they are.
is. And I will say, for the first several years, like I said, we gave everything away for free. And that was for good reason. It wasn't a strategy. It was simply, I need to make this program better and more effective and more successful for people. And I can't do that without feedback. So I'm going to give you stuff and you're going to tell me if it worked. And if it did, awesome. We're going to finalize it. And if it didn't, we're going to make it better. We gave away so much for free that by the time we started charging for things or having products to sell, a book to sell, people were more than happy to support us in that because our focus has and continues to be value added first, always value added first.
Yeah.
So again, that was not a genius marketing strategy I had in the beginning. It's just what felt right, but it
Yeah.
has turned out to be a really helpful strategy for continuing to grow and maintain the business.
Yeah. So I'm curious. We hear frequently in these like helping professions that I like to call like health and wellness, you're helping people to improve their lives. Sometimes there is a pushback to being profitable while you're doing that. And so I'm just curious what your response is to that pushback.
Sometimes there is. We definitely get, as an example, in 2024, when we came out with the new Whole30, the updated, completely updated version of the program, it included some program rule changes. that were grounded in and reported very concisely and thoroughly with references and resources grounded in the current science. If we didn't change our mind about anything for 17 whole years, that would be really concerning to me. The fact is, we do change our mind when we're presented with new information. And we did get some pushback like, oh, this is obviously a money grab. You must be just changing rules so that you can take on more partners. I kind of just let those go. Because what I'm able to say now, 2.5 years later, is, oh, we did change the rules and we haven't taken on a single partner or product that now uses this ingredient. So either we're playing a real long grifting game here, or it wasn't about the money in the first place. There will always be people who are upset that you are making money at your job, which is weird because I don't think any of those people would work for free. At the same time, I know in my integrity that we give so much away for free and we offer so much value that people who are complaining about the fact that we're charging for some things, I can just let that go.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. We do just have to sometimes put the haters, so to speak, out of our minds and know that we're serving so many others and benefiting so many others that it's worth it. Melissa, this has been fantastic. I've really appreciated our time together today. Is there any last thing that you would share for our audience as a takeaway today?
Ooh, I think the one piece of advice that sticks with me the most as an entrepreneur is just don't forget to pay yourself first.
Yes.
I came into entrepreneuring in this like hustle culture. I'll work while you're sleeping. I can rest when I'm dead. If you're resting, I'm working. And of course, immediately burned myself out. And that's ironic considering I'm giving health and wellness advice to other people. And a mentor of mine said to me, you got to remember to pay yourself first. If I'm running a business that is running me into the ground, what am I even doing? So it's not even that I am of better service to my community and my customers and my team when I am rested and grounded and feeling fulfilled. It's that I'm of better service to myself, and that should count for something too. So just remember, boundaries are healthy and it's okay to pay yourself first.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. That's what we help people do too. So I appreciate that support. Whole30.com, is that the best place to find you? Where else do people connect with you on a regular basis?
Whole30.com. Our Instagram is Whole30, Facebook is Whole30, TikTok is Whole30, and you can find me at Melissa Yu.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. It was so great to chat with you today.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Numbers. If today's conversation resonated with you, subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss a new episode every week. And if you're a health or wellness business owner who's ever wondered what's really going on behind your own numbers, I'd love to talk. Head to fitforprofit.com to learn more or book a complimentary clarity call. We'll see you next week.